We're starting. Okay, I want to talk. Okay. So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Just before we start, as people are coming from the refreshments, we are going to be doing a little bit of polling to keep you engaged. So, you may like to either with great ease or with ardour or with arduousness get yourself. We are the Terrace Hall, so you will both be using a little bit of polling and maybe also have space for the messages as well. So, if you're busy emailing home, then you might as well want to try and see whether you can connect into the Terrace Hall. Where's my drink? I got something. So once again, good morning everybody. Great to have an almost full space. My name's Peter Woodward, independent facilitator, and it's great to have been invited to work with a tremendous panel this morning on this particular issue. Circular by design, one close to my heart because I spend all my time in conferences and things dealing with end-of-pipe solutions when we've all made a mess trying to do clever things to sort of link it back into circular, where in fact if we get it right at the start, the thing whizzes around with joy and happiness. So this is the most important session of the entire conference, because if we get it right up there and up there, then the rest of them will be redundant. But that doesn't matter, because they're all going to be part of that glorious circular economy. Delighted this morning that this session is particularly going to be focusing on looking at examples and ideas of how people are responding to the circular economy challenge through circular by design. This session is sponsored and hosted by the European Environment Agency, who are playing a crucial role in really trying to make sense of how we make the changes to move towards a circular economy. There will be some discussion, some presentations, and we'll also have a chance for some discussion with the panel at the end. But I'd just like to start. Interesting. Who in this audience does not have a mobile phone? Who wishes they didn't have a No. Outrageous. It's just interesting. A couple of facts. Worldwide, more than 1 billion smartphones were purchased in 2014. Goodness knows how many are going to be purchased in 2017. And the extraordinary thing is, well, you know, back in the 1950s, you'd need a computer bank the size of Finlandia Hall in order to do what you're able to do on something that's about the size of your credit card. So it's extraordinary change that's going on. That thing is full of stuff. Interesting. We've got some questions. See how alert you are this morning. So I'd like to see whether we've got a polling question, bit of general knowledge coming up here. So if you get onto your smartphone, get onto the app, and then get onto where the what's it called? Questions. What's the little thing called? Questions and ask and poll. And we are the Terrace Hall. So here we are. This is taking you back to your days at school and O-level. How many stable elements, i.e. non-radioactive, I hope, of the periodic table can be found in a smartphone? Okay, this is not opinion, this is general knowledge, okay? So A, 20, extraordinarily 20 stable elements found in that smartphone. 40, 70 or 90. Okay, push your buttons. Give me a wave if you're struggling. If you're struggling to get in, just go back to the front page, take a deep breath and start again. And faith, a little bit of faith. We've not talked about that much in this conference, but that always helps. So there's a circular loop, back to the front page, ask and vote, and see where you're getting on. Okay, I'm just checking. So I'm going to give you our answers coming in. Okay, so that's great. Okay, so I'm going to give you another 20 seconds. And if you can't get in and are feeling bitter and twisted, that's society. Winners, losers, it's rotten. But that's the way it is. Okay, so another 10 seconds. Okay, so how many stable elements of the periodic table can be found in a smartphone? Here we are. 7% of you said 20. Ridiculous high number. 31% said 40. 38% 70. And 22% said 90. And the answer is, it's 70. And those of you who said 90 go to the bottom of the class because there are only 83 stable elements. So there you go. There you go. Okay. So, but even if it was 20, there's a lot of crazy stuff in one of these things, all intricately put together. Okay, let's have another question. In the USA, God bless it, how often do users replace their mobile phone? Okay, so we're looking at churn, and want the next one. Every 12 months, 21 months, 33 months, 48 months. Okay. I'm hoping once people are in, they're sort of in, so it gets easier, doesn't it? Okay, so about 20 seconds to go. Okay, have we reached critical mass? Okay, keep going for a few moments. No Googling what the answer is, okay? I just need to... Okay, 10 seconds. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Okay. There you are. Actually feel deeply reassured. It's 21 months. Okay, so every 21 months, users in the USA change their mobile phones, which is, and the average smart life expectancy now reaches 4.7 years before this ends up nestling in a landfill site or being dangerously dismantled or whatever else happens. We'll find out about that. Okay, move on to another question. Final one for now. Okay, what was the total value in US dollars of e-purchases made in 2016? So this is the currency of exchange, of purchase, all the rest of it. We're all using it to buy everything from bananas to cars to houses to everything. The total value of e-purchases made in 2016. 500, 1,000, 1,500 or 2,000 trillion dollars. And this gives us some sense of the scale of the transformation using these little babies that we are embedding into the way we want to organize our transactions in society. Okay, another 10 seconds or so. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Okay. There we go. Quite an interesting rate. It is $2,000 trillion. By any stretch of the imagination, that's a lot of money. It just strikes me. I tell you. I could open a coal mine in Australia. No, don't go there. Do not go there. I'm sorry. So, just interesting. That tiny little thing, designed delivered, all the rest of it, a highly complex thing, not very easy to take apart. But maybe that's just an indicator of the challenge of what we need, but also the design challenge we face. What we'd like to do as this host, is to move on to our next slide. I've got a panel of speakers, panelists who are going to discuss this. So we've got people both from businesses who are engaging with us, clever academics, and SEPA member of the European Parliament. We're going to discuss this issue about circular by design. But to start with, one of the big challenges we have is that we can discuss the circular economy, but the reality is there are some key trends that are taking place in society about the way we are moving towards purchasing and being involved. So if we can have the next slide. The European Environment Agency has been looking at these trends, because if we don't understand that the world as it is unfolding, we can't then make the interventions to say, hang on a minute, we need to do something different. So delighted that we're going to have a presentation in a moment. And those of you who were in the first session, how many were in the first session? Fantastic. Oh, if you weren't, you missed a treat. But we're going to, because time is short, we're going to use the Pecha technique to keep our speakers on their toes and to make sure they give us some direct messages. So Hans is the first victim to offer us some clear insights. The agency has produced some research and a report on those key trends and what that is meaning in terms of messages for the circular economy. So Hans, great to have you with us. And if you find halfway through you need something to lean on, we've got a reuse oil drum, that's fine.
All right, very good.
So great to have you with us, and your presentation starts now.
Okay, well, thanks. This is the first time I do a Machu Picchu presentation, but bear with me. We are presenting today our second report in a series of reports to support Europe in this whole package of circular economy. And what we are presenting today you will not receive because it's a paperless conference, so you will find it on the internet. And we did it together with our European Topics Center on Waste and Materials in a Green Economy, and several of the people involved are here. So it's a pleasure to do that. Now, if you think of a circular economy, there are trends in society, in the economy, in business that are happening, and how do they relate to that circular economy, and how can we design better given those trends? That's what we are focusing on. First trend, increased complexity of products, smartphones, computers, your washing machine, more and more components that are glued together, fit together, that are integrated in very different ways. What type of message is that? What type of sort of indication for circular by design? Well, we think it's a negative trend by and large. It makes decomposing things more difficult. It makes taking the valuable materials out of it more difficult. It makes repair and reuse more difficult. So we think overall this is not a positive trend towards a circular economy. Second trend, modular by design, components that you can take out. And we have some industries that have done this for a long time. There is a big breakthrough of the thinking and engineering around modeling modular design, which we are seeing in various products. What type of trend do we think this is? We think this is a positive trend because it will facilitate repair, it will facilitate refurbishing and upgrading. Imagine you could have your Apple computer that you could actually open and you would replace the chip in it, and all of a sudden it would be updated and you could use it again. You don't need a new screen, you need a better processor, and that could happen with many products. Then we have 3D printing, additive manufacturing. We think in principle we could see a massive breakthrough of this. We see it in some sectors, but by now we're building medical devices, we're building toys or printing toys at home. We do all sorts of things. Could this be positive? Yes. You could do local production, you could shorten supply chains, you could only print on demand what you need, but you could also just print because it's fun to print. You could have it in every house instead of in a local community that has a more reflective approach to that. So it again could be positive or negative. This is really difficult. Product services, okay, where you don't get the product, you lease it and you get the service. Think of printers in offices, long tradition there, but you don't own the box that controls your hyper-modern TV. You have it on lease from the company that does it. So in principle, what sort of trend is this? We think this could be a positive trend because manufacturers will build different types of products, better quality to last longer, easy to repair, because they give you a service and they want the material basis of that to be better built and more repairable. So we see a potential positive trend there. I'm ahead of the game. Okay, home delivery services. Okay, we all know them, home delivery services, right? They go from the Zalandos and the food packages that you get now over all sorts of other things that are brought to your house on demand. Again, could this be a positive trend? Yes, because you would only manufacture what people actually order to be brought. It could potentially be a short delivery system, but you also have lots of waste packaging materials and going back and forth. The shoes are not the right size. I ordered a different this, I ordered a different that. It could also lead to reverse logistical chains, where the guy that comes to give you the shoes, you give him something else that goes somewhere else. Okay, product lifespan. Well, counterintuitively, product lifespan of many consumer products has actually reduced. They're better built, but the lifespan has been reduced. Not for all of them. Think of cars. They have a longer lifespan than 20 years ago, so it could be a mixed trend. Yeah? On the one hand, we could focus on those processes and try to regulate them a bit better to increase the lifespan. On the other hand, if your car is on the road for 20 years, do you want that same engine that was built 20 years ago? Maybe not. So again, a mixed trend depending on what is happening there. Collaborative consumption. You don't need a drill in your house to prove your manlyhood if you're only gonna drill 2 holes every year. You may as well share that drill. I need to speed up. I could tell you a whole story about that. But, so, you could share this. You could share gardening equipment. You could think of tool libraries. You could think of all of those shared economy things, collaborative consumption, which are breaking through in cities a lot. We think this is a positive trend towards the future because you could buy better equipment jointly. It could last longer, and you do not all have to own it. Come on, speed up. Markets for recycling. Again, this is a trend. We've been recycling more and more and more, but we need a market for it. We need recycled products to actually replace virgin products. We need these markets close to manufacturers. We need to think about all sorts of elements that would do something positive with this recycling. If this happens, this could be a positive trend. On the other hand, it could also mean that product innovation to push things forward could be a bit hampered. It could also mean building up toxicity in recycled materials. So again, depending on how we do it, it could be a very positive trend or not. The Internet of Things, there are more connections between your refrigerator and somebody else's coffee maker nowadays than there are people on the planet. Could this be a... I've been told. Could there be, I didn't check this personally, could there be a benefit in this? Of course, you know where the product is, you know the lifespan, you could signal problems with it, so you could facilitate repair, you could do all sorts of interesting stuff with that sort of knowledge. At the same time, we really need to think about using that knowledge in that direction and not just using it to sell more products or to increase the chips in these things and then get big data out of it to pursue consumers to do things that are not very circular by design. These are the trends that we have looked at. Increasing complex products, negative. We see 3 positive trends, and those depend. What is the key message here? It depends on governance, approaches, and knowledge about what is happening, whether these trends will actually materialize in something that feeds into this circular economy. The idea of benign by design or circular by design is indeed a great idea, but it doesn't fall from the sky. You need to actively think about what sort of market conditions, what sort of technological pushes, what sort of R&D, and what sort of governance, private and public governance, that goes along with those if we really want to transform the economy into a circular by design. Thank you.
Brilliant. Very much indeed. Thank you. Thank you, and you win the Machu Picchu Award as well for keeping pace and, in fact, ahead of the slide. But that is a very significant list. That, in a sense, is the core of a lot of discussion that needs to take place. Just a quickie, we are completely full, which is fantastic. We've got about 15 seats down here. Would you like to, I'm going to come in, if you've got a spare seat next to you, would you like to put your hand up? And then would you like to come through? Just come and join the party. This is the best party in time. So do come through, that's fine. And if you'd like someone new to sit next to you, smile and they will do so. It's great. Okay, fantastic. So we've seen those product trends. Somehow, wow, they are driving forwards. What is our power and strength to influence them? That's a discussion we need to have. What we're going to do now is to explore 4 of those in a little bit more detail and actually look at what's going on in there and see what the possibilities around circular economy are. And I've got 4 speakers from different businesses who are all wrestling with the challenge of how do we make all this stuff absolutely green and going in the right direction. They've also agreed to do the 2017 Impact 2017 presentations, and we've asked them at the end to offer us just a key message about a barrier to moving towards circular economy through that area, and also an enabler. And what we're going to do at the end is invite you to tell us which ones you think are most significant, and we're going to open that up in the panel discussion. Just to say also to them, I've put a little mark on here. Okay, so if you go over that mark, you will begin to be part of the presentation. Okay, and it looks confusing when you have got an electric drill across your face. Okay, but Hans will talk to you about that at some length afterwards. So, and it's absolutely great. We've got MD Hødgaard, Dell, IKEA, Philips Lighting. So some great names who are really going to offer us something. So John Sommer. From MT Hødgaard, modular design, modular buildings. Is this the future? What are the possibilities? All the rest of it. Great to hear some of the thoughts coming from yourself, starting from now.
Thank you. The reason why modular design and design for disassembly can really contribute to a circular economy is because we use 40% of the materials in the world, and it will allow us to use the materials again without degrading them, that we can disassemble them. If we cannot disassemble them, we have to cross them. If we cross them, we cross the value. When it comes to new builds, we have rather sophisticated methods for designing and building new buildings. We have developed these sophisticated methods over centuries, and we have done that using materials, designs, and the resources from all over the world. However, when we come to doing that, we have been doing that as if there is no tomorrow. We have been doing that as if we did not, and we have not yet, tried to really reuse the materials in their entirety. We reuse quite a lot of material in the industry, but we crash them down, we degrade them before we use them with most of the material. To make the business case and to change the industry, to make the customers actually demand products designed for disassembly, and buildings prepared for a circular economy, we have to show there is a business case in order to make them act, because the decision makers of this world care about resources, but react to business cases. To do so, we gathered a team of well-known people from the industry across the industry, and decided that we would make the business case that would allow us to advocate for a circular model and for design for disassembly in the future. We had to show them where the money was. To do so, we decided with a well-known architectural company in Denmark, 3XN, and some others, that we would use a project we had prepared together with a value of 120 million euros or 60 million kroner as the model, because we had all the detailed calculation for that specific project, and also inviting in here a demolition company to take part of the investigations. What we found was that if the client had built the property in accordance with the existing technology, he would have to pay $16 million to take it down and get rid of it. Had he instead designed it modularly and designed it for disassembly, he could sell all the materials for 20 million, earning 35. The 35 million equals 4% of the total value of the building, or 8% of the superstructure that we analyzed. That's quite a lot of money. If we are looking into the future and resources are becoming scarcer, that could become 16% or more. Adding this up to a European level, European 28, still including Britain, that would of course mean that we could save 13 billion euro a year. And the cost is only 1/3% of the design cost that we have for buildings today. And that is only for the first years when the engineers and contractors need to become acquainted with new methods. When we do that, we have to design for disassembly just as if it was a construction process in reverse. You should not be able to tell me whether the picture you see here is a picture of the construction or the disassembly of Nordea's new headquarters. The most important thing is, however, that we change into methods that allow us to disassemble in their entirety. A column like that has a value of 200 euros per ton while it's still a column. It has a value of 4 euros per ton when it's crushed and used as gravel under a road. So very, very important for us is that we use the elements without degrading them in value. And what I show you in this figure here is that the larger the elements are that we can reuse, the more are the value, because we have invested more time and more energy into creating that project. And if we spoil that by taking it apart and use it in small bits and bolts, the value has disappeared and the energy has disappeared. And this is not only a value that will gain in the long run. There are immediate values also to design for disassembly and modular design. Some of them were mentioned before by Hans, that you can take parts of it out, that makes refurbishment easier, operations easier. And if we go all the way in the industry, we could actually prefabricate off-site different kind of concepts, like the housing concept from COP15 here, shown here, that we could put on top of a building to re-virtualize it for a period of time. And then we could take that product away when the building changes its use again and take it to another place. That this is doable is seen from the fact that we actually took that house, built it for COP15, placed it in front of Bella Center in Denmark for 2 weeks while there was COP15. Then we took it apart and took it to France for the Velux 5 Ocean event, where it's still placed on the harbor front. It was donated by Velux to the government there. The barrier, as we see, the most important barrier is that we need to create a market. We need to create scale in a market, and it's costly, and there are a lot of challenges in doing so. And in order to get through that, we have to show the business cases. We can do that as an industry, but to really get traction on this, we need also the politicians to help us, and they could do that if they asked us to, or asked actually all the member states of the European Union to use green public procurement and to require that all the buildings that the public buys anywhere in Europe is designed modularly and designed for disassembly. That would actually create the base for the future. We have the chance, let's go and grab it.
Great. John, some very important messages. I love the modular design of your presentation. 7 beautifully crafted pieces that have created a compelling message. Think about those barriers, think about those enablers. And now I'm going to move to looking at the issue design with recycled plastics. one of our utopian, one of our great hopes that might be a big part of the future around circular by design. I'm delighted to welcome to the oil drum, I don't know why is it an oil drum, it's a reuse oil drum, Louise Koch, who's a Dell, from Dell, and great to have you with us.
Thank
Corporate Sustainability Lead for Dell Europe, Middle East and Africa. That must keep you going most of the week, doesn't it?
Yes, it does, indeed.
So, share us some of your thoughts around this topic.
Sure, thank you. So, thank you. I'm from Dell, as you know, and we are all about the digital transformation from computers to data centers to Internet of Things and big data. And we just love the circular economy. So, let me take you on a tour de force of our innovation journey on circular innovation across the life cycle of our products. And yes, it's really about thinking in the life cycle. This is not just designing the product, it's looking at the potential for circular innovation at every step of the life cycle, from design to production, to the packaging and shipment, to the user phase, and of course to extending the life or to recycling at end of life. Starting with the circular product design, we're driving energy efficiency, of course, together with high performance, but also the modular design that makes it easier to repair or to disassemble the products along the way. So, for example, instead of using glues, we're using click mechanisms so we can easier take things apart. We are also big on recycled and recyclable materials. So if you look at a typical Dell computer, 35% of the plastics in the computer will be recycled materials. So it can be carbon fiber, closed-loop recycled plastics, or consumer recycled plastics. And looking at the materials, 90% can actually be recycled at end of use. When it comes to packaging, we are thinking outside of the box here. We started back in 2009 to replace plastic-based packaging. So we're using renewable materials like bamboo, like wheat straw, like mushrooms. If you're really hungry, you can actually eat the mushroom packaging. You need some soy sauce, though, to go with it. Our newest quest in packaging is to turn the tide on ocean plastics by using it as packaging material. So our nice new XPS 13 laptop comes in a tray, 100% recycled plastics, 25% ocean plastics. We're going to use 8 tons this year. It's a pilot project in scaling to 10 times that amount in 2025. Now, how do we create a lifelong IT life for products? A lot of the new innovations already have a longer lifetime because they have less mechanical parts, so they last longer. We also provide repair tutorials, service around the world for our customers, and we also refurbish any computers we get back for certain reasons. Another way to extend life is to give it a second life. This photo is from our partnership with the Dutch bank ABN AMRO, where our take-back team wipe the equipment for data, refurbish the computers, and then it's donated to primary schools in Amsterdam. 1,200 systems last year for 80 schools. And looking at closing the loop in electronics, so when it reaches end of life, what do we do? And there's a high failure of recycling today. More than 45 million pounds of electronics do not get recycled, and that's a value of $200 million. So that's just plain stupid, waste of resources. What we are doing as a producer is to try and do our part in running the world's largest electronics recycling program across 83 countries around the world, where we either refurbish and resell or we recycle with full traceability. So we're doing that around the world. And in 2014, we decided to go a step further and see, can we do a closed-loop recycle of materials? And we started out with the plastics. So what we were doing is actually take plastics from old computers, that can be Dell or any other brand, and then we are melting it down, shipping it to China, where it's reused in new products. That whole cycle takes about 6 months. And the results so far, we've used 5,000 tons of closed-loop plastics across 91 product models, millions of units altogether, and saving so far $1 million in cost. And that's although, the plastic price is low at the moment. So there's also a business case for the planet here. Together with true cost, we calculated the natural capital benefits of using closed-loop plastics compared to virgin plastics. And there's lots of benefits for human health in terms of ecotoxicity, less water use, less use of fossil fuels, etc. So all in all, a 44% better for the planet business case than virgin plastics. And next steps, what are we going to do? We are going to scale our existing efforts. We can do much more, and we want to do much more on everything we do. We're going to expand into other materials. Stay tuned for upcycled gold coming up. And we're, of course, expanding our collaboration across sectors and sharing our experience for others to follow. And lastly, barriers. There are many barriers going from a linear to a circular economy. That's what we're all talking about here these days. An important one are the gaps in the recycling systems and the regulations that can keep materials in high quality and keep them in circular loops in the system. Some of the enablers, of course, digital innovations. The potential is huge. In 2030, we will have 1,000 times more computing power, and everything and everybody will be connected in intelligent webs. So just imagine what we can do with that in terms of smarter cities, smart production, smarter resource streams, maybe even smarter people, who knows? We can hope. So that's our journey, and we really look forward to continuing in our own supply chain, life cycle, value chain, but also working more and more with customers and partners and with all of you guys to transition to a circular future for the generations to come. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, and looking forward to opening up the discussion. Covered quite a number of interesting areas there. Our next area we're going to focus on is looking about changing product lifespan. We all like new things, but we don't like them when they break down early. So looking at the product lifespan, a particular and interesting opportunity area. And no one better to offer some thoughts on that than a supplier of most of the stuff that our books on the environment are sitting on. Mr. Per Stoltz, Circular Waste Manager from IKEA Group. So I know you've got a great story to tell. Great to have you with us. Don't forget
I will stand here, yes.
That's fantastic.
Will not move.
So over to you. What's cooking in IKEA?
So good morning, everyone. I'm going to talk a little about circular IKEA. At IKEA, we have been working since many, many years with resources. It has always been in our DNA to work with resources in a better way. But in the latest years, we have started also to work with circular. And circular for us then, what does it mean? And we have put the name Circular IKEA to understand what it means for us as a company. As many companies, we have worked quite a lot on trying to manage our waste in many years. So managing waste has been avoiding landfill and doing more and more recycling. With the circular economy concept, we have focused more and more on the upper parts of the staircase. And why do we do this? Because this is our vision as a company, better everyday life for the many people. And the many people becomes more and more. And we already today consume more than we should. And it's all about then working with prolonging the life length of our products. And when the products doesn't have a life anymore, really to see to it that we use the resources in a smarter way, in a circular way. So it's not only about materials, it's also about products. Well, thank you. This is the way how we have organized in IKEA. And I think it's quite classic way. And it's about how we create a supply chain, a circular supply chain, how we design in a circular way, and how we meet our customers. Here the very important thing is that these three things need to work together. Everything needs to work together in a circular economy. How do we meet the customer? We have 700 million people coming to our stores every year. So we have an excellent opportunity to solve customer needs in a more circular way. I'm too quick. And the reason for this, I mean, we have asked a lot of customers what they think. And actually, people see a lot of value in things. And they hate to throw things away. So all of these ambitions of IKEA and our customer thoughts seems to come together. And now we're developing pilots to meet the customer in different way. We will see some of them later. Design. This is what we're here to talk in general. I want to stress that design here means not only product design. We need to design systems to make circular work. However, it is a starting point. So design of products is where we start. And these are the 5 dimensions on what we call democratic design in IKEA. And all of these dimensions needs to be balanced in a product design. And we can find actually circular points in all of these points. And I would also stress that, for instance, form and how beautiful a product is determines also the sustainability and circularity of it. Circular supply chain, it's basically something that doesn't exist today. Straight line supply chain, we need to make this circular, involving a lot of different new actors in our supply chain. As I said, we are doing a lot of pilots right now, and we are on the way, but we realize that we are just in the starting blocks or just left the starting blocks. But I have some examples for you to talk about. Too quick again. Is it jammed? No. There you go. This is an example from Belgium, what we do in all our Belgium stores. We have a take-back and resell service for second-hand furniture in our stores, so customer can come with all furniture and sell it to us, and we resell it. We do seminars on remanufacturing or refurbishing and repair. We do take-backs, and we do also donations of all the furniture if you don't want to sell it, but want to have a second line for it. This is Tomat, a small little spray bottle. This actually is produced from waste. This is the plastic film we wrap around the pallet, polyethylene film. We take it and we do a product out of it. This is a product coming from 100% recycled material. So the chipboard comes from recycled wood chips, and the plastic film is made out of PET, old PET bottles. One thing that is very important with the design is everything should look beautiful. Otherwise, it's not nice. Sometimes you can use the new material, the recycled material, as we see here, to create some effects that would not be possible in virgin glass like we have here. I will stop or end with some other examples that maybe is more putting questions to us. This is a fantastic the Ham. It is totally disassembly. You can assemble this sofa with a pair of scissors. We celebrated the team who did this. They were fantastic guys. So with a pair of scissors, you can separate all these materials. This, ladies and gentlemen, is an industrial shredder. Our waste management company showed us how they recycle that sofa. So they take the sofa with a crane and drop it in the shredder. And everything comes in this size. So all the work we did in the design phase is lost if we don't create the design of the whole system. And this brings me to my challenge, or my barrier, is really how can we take communication throughout the whole chain and make understand or give the information to the waste management company that actually this sofa can be smartly designed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Great, thank you. That's exciting and fantastic, and I shall be leafing through the catalogue online. And for all of those of you who have young children thinking about a settee that you can disassemble with a pair of scissors within 10 minutes. So we have to think about that rebound loop as well. So that's interesting. But great, thank you very much for those thoughts and those ideas and that sense of purpose from a major player of consumer goods in the marketplace. Our final presentation before we open up the conversation comes around services around products, our tradition. I've been brought up in an age that I somehow had a status when I bought something, and that made me feel good. So whether it was an electric drill, a light bulb, or a car, I now have made it because I've bought it, but that's all changing. Delighted that we have Philips Lighting with us, and to offer some insights around the services, around products, whole area of circular by design. Please welcome to the platform Mr. Anton Brummelhuis, who's Senior Director Sustainability of Philips Lighting. Great to have you with us.
Thank you. Good morning to you. How's the energy level in this room? Still high?
We are throbbing.
Okay, good. My company, Philips Lighting, is providing light for brighter lives and a better world. And this presentation today will zoom into how services can provide extraordinary value in relation to new products. And before I do that, I would like to provide our view on the trends. We, of course, see the increase of population from 7 billion people today to 10 billion people in the year 2050. We also see that all those people need more resources. We see the rise of the middle class, and we also see the digitalization. And this also provides new opportunities for Philips Lighting. Our program, which is called Bright Lives, Better World, zooms in on two, let's say, major trends, which are and consists out of 6 programs, 3 programs on the social axis and 3 programs on the environmental axis, and the circular economy is one of them. And the circular economy is relevant because we see an increase in commodity prices of 150%. We see that by the year 2050 we need 3 planets, and we also see that there is a lot of economic value, which is 1 trillion euros. We zoom in today on services, and why is that? Let's say, at the moment, we have the products at the user side, it has the absolute highest value. And to maintain that, we have services to extend this usage time. It all started for us with the customer who said, I do not want to have your products, I want to have light and nothing else. This was Thomas Rauw in the Benelux 5 years ago. And ever since then, we have focused upon, let's say, new services, and we now brand them as circular lighting. And this zooms into, let's say, performance contracts. Part of it is also that we take the responsibility for the repurposing. So even after the service contract, we take care for the repurposing. So the reuse of products, for instance, in other contracts, the reuse of parts, and also at the end to ensure that materials end up not in landfill but become available for the economy again. There are clear benefits for the customer in doing so. So there is no financial investment needed. They get all the services. They get all the savings from electricity, maintenance, and so forth. And we have designed, let's say, our products also to support this service model, which is the products can be upgraded. For instance, you can add sensors to it. We can easily maintain it. You can click it on and off the ceiling. It's modular from nature. We have heard that from the former speakers. And at the end, you can also easily disassemble and recycle them. What is also very key is, of course, we heard it before, the Internet of Things. So products needs to have, let's say, in our case, a service tag. They need to have a passport so you can track and trace them so they can keep their value. It's very important that we collaborate in and over the value chain. So for Philips Lighting, open platforms to all stakeholders are key. So our technology is open, based upon open interfaces, and we work together not only with customers, but all the players in value chains and over the value chains. A good example of that is our City Touch control, where you can steer 140 lamp poles in Los Angeles. We work together there with not only the city administration, but also, for instance, with Ericsson. We have lamp poles which provide Wi-Fi solutions. We work together with SAP, that it is part of a city cockpit where they can steer much more than lighting only. This is an example how we work together with multiple vendors of luminaires. So our City Touch works not only with the Philips branded luminaires, but also competition. And this all brings a lot of benefits for society. So LED brings 50% energy on average, and if you connect them with, let's say, connected lighting systems, it brings an additional savings, and this combination might go up to 80% electricity savings. A good example we had 3 years ago was a solution for Schiphol Airport. It was called circular lighting. They pay for the light, they don't have to invest. We take care not only for the performance during the usage phase, but also for the end of contract management, for repurposing the hardware. So what is then the biggest enabler? We see so far that there is clear interest from, let's say, public administrations and customers who have sustainability high on the agenda. So they do not only optimize for the economic benefits, but also for the environmental and social aspects. And we see they are the clear, let's say, leaders to adopt and embrace these type of solutions. So what is then basically the barrier? It's almost the opposite. So all those companies and administrations who are happy with the current status, yeah, they will not change. So what we are looking for are sticks and carrots. So thank you.
Anton, that is fascinating. So much change going on in that world of the market, and I shall now walk through Schiphol Airport with my head in the ceiling, wondering what clever things are going on. Though I shouldn't think the sensors ever turn the lights off, because there's so much movement, isn't there? So that's fine. So there we are. 4 great companies, 4 presentations on something of the work that they're involved in, but touching again very much to those areas that there are trends going on in society, and that the circular design, circular economy through design has actually got to break through some of those trends. I think we've got a interesting. Some people are already asking questions. If you want to ask questions, that's great. I'm going to do a little poll now, which, again, for you, just so that you can just have a little breakthrough and a little thought. We're going to have the panel together and we're going to have an open discussion. But each of our panelists offered an enabler or a barrier that they felt was a particular important thing which we need to kind of be tackling if we are to move more effectively to circular design. So it won't dominate our whole discussion, but just to get an indication from you as to what you think the key things that we really need to be wrestling with if we are to make the transformation around circular by design. So, hearing the presentations we had, they all mentioned a barrier. So we had a barrier from the modular side, which is you can't just by yourself say, "Oh, I'm going to be circular." You've got to be part of an infrastructure that gets it. Otherwise, it reaches a point and it doesn't work. So is that how we create the entire infrastructure? Is that a key issue for us to discuss? Another barrier mentioned was gaps in recycling systems and particular regulations. So creating the playing field that means those people who are doing it right are actually able to compete well, and that we have those recycling systems. That lack of important information. You may have the most extraordinary product or service, but as it goes through the cycle, if the next person just thinks it's a sofa rather than something that can be done cleverly with, well, we've lost the plot. So this lack of key information about products and services that enables us to do the right thing. And this other one, this business as usual feels comfortable. It's just too easy to carry on doing what we are. Why should I change when I'm supporting my shareholders, getting shareholder value in the short term? Business as usual feels comfortable. I am among many friends and I am not at this conference. So business as usual feels comfortable. So just a thought, we won't let it dominate our discussions, but so you think, yeah, that's where we need to really focus, drill down with Hansa's electric drill to give 3 uses of it for this year. Tap into your voting, which you feel, they're all important, which you feel maybe has a particular priority for our discussion. Maybe add another 15 seconds. Okay, diddly. Right, okay. So there we are. Ooh, interesting. So there we are. How do we? Disruption. There's not enough disruption going on, business as usual, so we're going to open a little bit of discussion about that in our panel. How can we just feel tectonic plates shifting? Because just kind of doing the odd report and smiling does not seem to be transforming. Okay, our next one, the happier ground of enablers. So we had a number of enablers using the power of green public procurement as the driver of the purchasing of goods and services that make the difference. That's, you know, there's a lot been done already on that, but goodness me, we've only touched the potential. Promoting digital innovations. I'm trying to remember what that one was about. Oh, but yes, the digital world. Goodness me, it's all around us, and that offers us really smart ways of doing new things better. So the digital opportunity. Pre-competitive collaboration. So right from the first design research area that we actually collaborate, understanding what could be possible before we then rush to market and do things. So pre-competitive collaboration. And finally, the enabler is people getting the purpose. So social, economic, underpinned by environment, the sustainability driver. The enabler is if people get that, the circular economy becomes an obvious response. So there are just 4 enablers. I'm sure there are many more out there, but just your view on the one that we might focus on a little bit this morning. Maybe another 15 seconds. Okay, another 5 seconds. Lovely. There we are. So, is it changing by the second, or? This is exciting. Okay, so interesting. Green public procurement. Possibly because it just seems I would say a no-brainer, an obvious one. But goodness me, there are challenges there. So maybe we just highlight a little bit on that one. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you the chance to breathe for about 2 minutes, maybe have a chat with your neighbour just about what you've learned so far this morning. I'm then going to invite our panel up to offer some comments and observation, and already I'm getting some questions, some messages coming through. So again, if you want to use the app to offer a message or a comment, even if we don't use it, it will be an important message that we log and will share with our speakers, and also informs the agency and others who are listening in. So we've got some things coming up on the screen. We'll keep that up for a moment, but not too long, because someone might be saying something rude on it, but keep it there for now. Okay. So just have a couple of minutes of downtime just to catch up with Oxygen and your colleague next to you, and then I will invite my panel up. If I could invite my panel up, if you come first and go here. And I'm going to invite you just to make a comment on anything, or a So, if we could come back together, please. Going to see if I can... Lovely. So, if we could come back together, please. Fantastic. Your opportunity to go outside and take a deep breath of the wonderful Finland air is only 30 minutes away. But this is too good an opportunity with our panel not to just open up and explore one or two questions. So, if we just come together, that's great. Now, you may or may not have realized that I've actually expanded the panel from 5 into 7 because we have 2 other guests with us, and I'm going to give them both an opportunity maybe to offer some initial observations around this whole issue of circular by design and the journey towards that transformation of the way we think about products and services. And first of all, I'd like to give the floor to Thomas Gradel, who's from Yale University, Professor of Industrial Ecology, and has been for many years thinking about this stuff. So you've heard the presentations, you know the theme, you've also heard the challenges that the European Environment Agency are offering to move in that direction. Be great to have one or two of your thoughts that help us through this, navigate through this interesting world.
Well, let me start by recalling for you, those of you who know it, how a smartphone is manufactured. This requires people to use really the state-of-the-art of modern electronics and modern engineering. Much of it is done in clean rooms. It's very sophisticated technology, and you end up with a phone with, I think instead of 70, the real number is probably 63 or 64 elements. And when you finish with that, you have to use a lot of technology to separate them at the end. So much technology that it may use more energy than it's worth to separate the materials. So part of the challenge with the circular economy is taking something that's very complicated and finding ways, if you can't reuse it as such, to disassemble and repurpose in such a way that you bring into play modern smelter technology, modern material separation technology. Certainly we can do a lot with good ideas, with dealing with customers, dealing with shipment, but there's a lot of technology in here, and the technology has to be done properly as well to make it work.
Thank you very much indeed for that, and that we'll develop that through our conversation. Just bring our other fresh panelists in. Sirpa Pietikainen, always nearly get it right. Member of the European Parliament and a driver in the whole area of environment, sustainability and the circular economy package. I know it's been a passion of yours for many years, and interesting to have a political perspective on this, because all our businesses will be saying create the frameworks within which we can innovate, change and all the rest of it. So Sirpa, circular by design, that ultimate goal that we're aiming for. A couple of thoughts and comments from you initially.
Thank you, and firstly thank you for all of you for a great panel, and I think it very clearly shows that if the question is wrong, you can't get the answer right. And this is designing out of the waste, be it buildings or lighting or be it whatever furniture or clothing what we are having. And this needs to be in the focus. And this, on my opinion, and that was clearly shown here as well, needs regulation. Because it needs the legal certainty. And maybe we come back on that later on about the Eco-Design Directive. But basically we need to have a regulation saying that all products, both manufactured, remanufactured and imported to the EU, has to be upgradable, remanufacturable, refurbishable, repairable, reusable, a bit of a different thing, and fixability, and then last on the line, the recyclability. And if you just smash and recycle, just a tremendous based of material and value. And this is a paradigm and a system change all partners need to be in.
Interesting. And just whilst you're on, one of the themes that came through about an enabler was green public procurement. I forget how many billion euros worth of power the public purse, my money up until 2 years' time or whatever, but all our money, because we're all part in the world economy, we put money through taxes into government, which then provides goods and services. It would be obvious if we want to move in this direction that we drive. There's been some work being done in the European Union around green public procurement. Just wonder whether you've got a couple of observations about why it doesn't seem to be catching fire at the pace it maybe ought to.
Well, I guess we are so sort of attached with the business as usual and with the price fixation that we do not see that the public procurement is a strategic tool in European economy. It's about 20% of our GDP all over Europe. The biggest single amount of the money that we can move if we compare the national budget and everything. And it has a double effect. Either it is a pull effect, if you buy cheap from third countries, unsustainable, short-lasting, wastable, or it has a push effect. That means if you favor that kind of innovation and procedures where you reuse, and especially buy as services. And I would favor that we would have as a compulsory tool, please feel free to lobby it on your governments, a comply or explain model. That means that you would always need to consider whether you could buy it as a service, whether you could buy it as a circular, whatever is the best availability, and then you would have the option to explain, okay, can't afford such an insignificant amount, we do not know, we just don't care. So leaves you the room for doing other way, but just start rethinking.
Right, okay. Just wonder whether any of our other panelists just have a thought around this green public procurement. I mean, I've been facilitating Eco-Procurer and the whole... when local authorities and others get it, it's incredibly exciting. Some amazing examples from Belgium, from the Netherlands, from Austria. But when they don't get it, there seem to be all sorts of barriers. Just interested, maybe initially from our business colleagues, maybe start with Louise and then John. A couple of comments on green procurement. So Louise first.
Sure. So we see a huge potential for public procurement to actually ramp up the game in terms of driving sustainability through procurement. It's fine to have the regulations in place to lift from the bottom, but if you can use procurement strategically to drive both social and environmental sustainability, you can really create the market driver that will ultimately be the strongest driver of any progress. So that's definitely also encouragement from our side. We see in France, we see public customers actually adding a percentage of the CSR demands of between 10 and 15%. So it counts together with price. This is what we would encourage public procurement across Europe to do.
And I'm just interested, as a company like Dell, do you just wait till the next person comes out saying we want 1 million computers and you tender for it, or is there a way you can engage? Because maybe I don't ask for 100% recycled computers because I don't know about it. I just wonder whether you're actually actively supporting and stimulating green public procurement rather than just hoping that you get the contract.
Yeah, no, we're very much engaged. I've personally been on a tour speaking to public procurement agencies in Europe and still have more to go, but we've been meeting here in Helsinki with the Norwegian, the Danish, the French. Right. So far, more coming up. So yes, we are engaged, and we want to be even more engaged in that dialogue.
And are you seeing hope?
Hope?
Are you seeing hope?
Yes, I am an optimist by nature, so there is hope. There's also
dangerous.
a lot of barriers. Then we need to have more. So one thing is to have the political strategy and the leadership, and then it's a matter of also having the competencies to actually, because obviously it's more complex.
Interesting. I mean, John, you're creating the cities and the refurbishment of the cities of the future. That's the public realm. What's your view around public procurement?
My room about public procurement is that it is extremely important because not only does it drag the market in the right direction, but it does also establish an example. We saw a couple of years ago social housing companies in Denmark, which is partly public procurement. They started to build only to the building code 2015, which was only to come in force a couple of years after. They did that since 2010, when the building code from 2010 was in force. So they could have been building to lower energy standards for 5 years, but they decided right away, right after the 2010 code was introduced, with the announcement of the requirements for 2015, that they would go to 2015 right away. So whenever an investor met us, told us that they were going to build luxury apartments here or there, and then we asked them into what kind of energy standard will you then build to? Oh, of course, the current regulations. Then we could tell him that, okay, if you are building luxury apartments to the current regulations, you are building them at a lower quality than what the social housing companies are doing. Exactly. Is that what you want to do? And nobody answered yes to that question. So it has a more than one effect. It will, of course, help us establish the market and the volume in the market we need, but it will also set the example for the rest of the industry. So therefore, I think it's extremely important that we engage the public and ourselves by the politicians we vote for, and make them use the public procurement as a force, because it might be expensive now, a bit more expensive, cost a few dollars more to do the right thing, but in the long run, we can't afford not to do it.
Yeah. Okay, Hans, I mean, steam must be coming out of your ears. It's a no-brainer. We get that we've got to do it. We get that we've got various programs and infrastructures in place and frameworks. What more do we need to do now?
We need to do it. It's not rocket science. Public procurement is not rocket science. We've been discussing green public procurement for 20-some years. Conference after conference. The EU publishes handbooks on it. Don't discuss it, do it. It's easy, it requires a different mindset. Right. And it is not optional. It should not be optional anymore. With what we are discussing in this conference and in climate change conferences, is green procurement optional? That's a ridiculous idea when you think of the boundary conditions of the 21st century, of institutions that set rules and goals and talk about all sorts of long-term policy processes. Well, then the least we can expect is that the public money that we collect in our societies is put where the mouth is. Okay. And green public procurement, in my opinion, is one of the key instruments that official institutions can use.
Okay, just interested. Couple of questions coming in which are saying, look, if the circular economy, circular design makes such good sense, such good economic sense, why do we need all sorts of regulations, frameworks, and all the rest of it? Good will out. It's the right way forward, so let it happen. Just to those who say, oh, no more regulations, no more red tapes, a lot of consumers vote for parties that say less red tape, less bureaucrat. So there is a consumer, it may be a very simple thing, but that's what a lot of consumers are saying. Just interested in what your response to that challenge says. Just if it's good and it's right, the market will sort it out without lots of regulations. Who wants to offer a thought? Maybe Sirpa? We're trying to put you out of a job.
Well, I don't know who of you have studied game theories, but if you haven't, please do. If you know prisoners' dilemmas and free riders' dilemmas, just good example. Who of you would pay voluntarily taxes if we wouldn't have regulation? Yeah. What would happen if we wouldn't have regulation about ownership in our legislation? People could sort of voluntarily figure out who owns and what and who takes and what. If we do not have the regulation, the free riders will always win, and we do not want that. And okay, why this is so difficult? There's 1,500 of us here. Please, please send your email, phone, Twitter, whatever you do, on your national decision makers, on European Parliament, on Commission, you name it. Because For example, 90% of the contacts that I'm having from the business side is no.
Right.
Coal, you name it, starting. This is a bad idea. Don't regulate, don't demand. It'll happen voluntarily. Please safeguard, please subsidize unprofitable coal mines and my business. Well, it's not profitable.
Okay.
It's the backbenchers that are contacting politicians. And if we do not do our share, the change will not happen in
Right.
the minds of politicians.
Okay. I wonder, a couple of comments from you, perhaps, Thomas. We talked a little bit about the drive of the public purse to shape the market, but also the issue of regulations framing the new playing field. Just a couple of observations as to whether how this is playing out, maybe particularly with an American perspective on things.
I think when we talk about the circular economy, we have to think about space as well as time and local situations, because something that's very complex can't be recycled on every street corner. If you take your smartphone and it has gone forever in terms of usefulness, where does it go to be reprocessed and disassembled? If you're in Brussels, you take it to Hoboken, where the world's best smelter system is located, and everything works fine. If you are in Lagos or someplace, you may have to send it several thousand kilometers to get to the right place. So there's a spatial dimension to the circular economy that I think is often ignored. If we're talking about a technological product, we're talking about technological disassembly. It doesn't happen on every street corner. We have to devise regulations and processes and approaches that take into account the fact that technology happens at the front end, it has to happen at the back end, and that won't happen in every locale.
Right. Interesting. Changing tack a little bit, as a question come up about labour costs. So aren't high labour costs one of the key barriers against circular models? So labour for take-back, disassembly, upgrading and so on. And I thought whether a shift in tax from labour to material resources might be a key enabler. Who would like to offer a thought on that? Maybe somebody who does a huge take-back service and thinks, whew, that's a big thing. I wonder whether Louise might have a thought on that.
Yes, certainly. So labor cost is, of course, could be an issue in Europe, maybe in particular. On the other hand, we'll have so much automation, robotics coming in. So I'm pretty sure with smart solutions that can be solved. So I don't think that's not the main barrier. The main barrier is to think the system, to get the bits and pieces together in a bigger picture, and to stop this. As one of my colleagues say, we have a fetish for shredding everything in Europe. So that goes back to the nice sofa. So I think, first of all, it's a mindset, that's a leadership, then it's getting the things together and then start doing it, and then we will find the solutions.
Okay, Sip, I just wonder, are we talking revolution if we shift our tax from stuff shift from labour to material in our taxation to actually to help this happen? Is this too dramatic?
It should happen because we really ought to think, what do we want to tax in the companies? The fact that they labor people, the fact that they, in quotes, make, and without quotes, pure business, or the fact that they are polluting, the fact that they are consuming more resources that would be necessary because of bad processes or bad product designs. So in the longer run, I think that the ecosystem services should be, and the resource use be incorporated in company reporting as a part of the IFRS financial reporting. And maybe we should start taxing the use of resources and ecosystem services instead of the labor and profit.
Hans, a thought on this at all?
Well, yes, we do some analysis of green taxes in Europe, and the analysis is rather clear. It's rather marginal, and there is no breakthrough. Yeah, although again, there are academic societies around that. It's It's a recommendation that comes from the OECD or the EU to countries in the semester reporting and all of that, but we don't see the breakthrough that it could have. And so there is a long way to go there. And I don't think it's about taxing labor too much. It's about not putting the right price on the other production factors. And the minute you start doing that, you have a much better grip on how public and private money flows should be adapted to what we expect from our economy in the 21st century. And taxes are a part of that.
Okay. Interesting. Just going back to the green procurement one for a moment, interesting comment just come through saying stop talking about green public procurement and start requesting better public procurement with a total cost of ownership and let the circular solutions outcompete the traditional products. It has to be business with embedded environmental benefits and not the other way round. So there's a thought. Also, the other interesting thing about labour. Did you want to comment on that?
Yes, we should stop talking about green public procurement. We should start calling all the rest brown public procurement.
Right, yes. Dirty, yes. Bad public procurement, yes.
And sustainable public procurement with both social and environmental.
Right, okay, that's quite
Then we're getting there.
And sustainable.
And innovative and smart.
Right. But
Clever, or just clever.
Right, but we shouldn't stop doing it whilst we try and work out the right word for it. So that's the other challenge. Also interesting on the labour side. I mean, I've just come from the UK where I ran the Furniture Reuse Network conference of a massive network of social enterprises at community level who are finding meaningful work for people in local communities, perhaps who are either recovering from mental illness or whatever, to be part of a virtuous social enterprise community economy that is labour intensive. And maybe if we're looking at sustainability and from the roots of the community, part of that, rather than thinking it's a high-tech solution, maybe engaging social enterprises and the value they can bring is a creative part of the solution. I'm going to change tack a little bit. Per, one for you, IKEA. When is IKEA going to introduce and develop sitting as a service? So we're thinking about this, the service that in fact what I want to do is sit and look at my Billy bookcase, but actually when I'm done with that one, you take it back, give me another one. I haven't even got out of my chair. So there we are.
I think you're doing fine, like it is. Sitting or sleeping or kitchen or anything, I mean, can be a service. What we really need to underline is that before you start offering services, products as services, you need to build your capabilities to manage that. Because yes, we can rent a kitchen today or a chair, but if when it comes back to us in 3 or 5 years, when the leasing contract is over, we don't know what to do with it, actually we have done something bad. So we're building the capabilities and we are looking into the opportunities at this point. But we need to come with the capabilities before we offer the service. Otherwise we can do really harm.
Okay, interesting. There's just one or two questions around this. We're both talking up the pipe in terms of circular design, but also around kind of open source in terms of, we are all grappling to work out what the technologies, what the alternatives, the substitution, all the things we need. We need to share some of that good knowledge in order for us then to be applying it within different fields. And I just, first of all, maybe from our business colleagues, the whole area, because everything is protected by all this stuff. And I just wondered the feeling about open source. We need, if we're going to transform, we need to be part of an open source economy. Yeah. Initial comment from John.
Yeah, what I think, one of our challenges was actually that we need to establish an infrastructure. We need to establish a market. So one of the things that we did when we did this business case and all the analysis and a lot more stuff, that was that we put a book together and we issued that book last summer, and we also published it on the internet so it can actually, under Building a Circular Future, be downloaded for free. It is our hope that it will be used in other companies, that it will be used at the universities, architectural schools, and so on and so forth, in order that we have a base of people who think and start to move the market in the right direction. We cannot, even though we are a big company back home in Denmark, do much about it. We have to have a lot of other companies doing the same. And one of the things that I saw the other day was we saw some of the charts from our book was published in Holland in the Dutch language and used on some of their construction sites. And that's what we like. I think that being on the forefront with this kind of development will give you always an advantage when the market comes. But I think in order to create the market, we cannot only sit down and wait for the smart public procurement. We have also to spread a lot of information, a lot of knowledge, and show the business cases and show the market that the money is there if you use concepts like total cost of ownership at the time when we have the infrastructure in place so that we can actually recirculate the materials from the building sites.
All right, Louise, you just want to offer a thought on this.
I agree. And as an example, our work now in Ocean Plastics, which is what's an IT computer company doing with Ocean Plastics, but we saw the opportunity to dive into solve this problem, and what we're doing here is also very much open source, and so our goal is to create a global commercially viable supply chain to get the plastics collected actually before it enters the ocean. So creating a market demand for used plastics, for plastic waste, so that it doesn't end up in the ocean, but end up in new products. So we will be expanding and scaling that in our own supply chain. We've put out white papers with open source with how we are identifying the places to find the plastic and how we're working with it technically, and we're also engaging with other large international companies and say, hey guys, if you can start using that too, we can build the scale, just exactly as you're saying, build the ecosystem.
Okay, interesting. Just an additional whilst you're on, because it's interesting. A lot of our conversation has been around kind of products and materials, and that's right. But interesting question come through. To Dell and all the others, is product material circularity your primary target, or are you moving towards true sustainability that would also include things like workers' rights in China and other parts of the world? Louise.
Yes, thank you, Regina, whoever you are, for that question. Yes, this is indeed also very high priority for us. This is a 5-minute, 20 seconds pitch about circular economy, so I couldn't include that as well. But if you go to dell.com/supply chain, I think you'll be pretty impressed about the work we're doing. And yes, we have a commitment to high working conditions and high environmental protection and social conditions in our supply chains.
Okay.
Lots more to say, but dell.com/supply chain.
I'm going to give you all one final word, because we're pretty well out of time, and I can feel Finland ozone out there somewhere. But I'd like to ask each of you to offer one final comment, one final thought. Could I suggest what we don't want is something obvious. So that's a challenge for you already. So we are circular by design. It feels as though the possibility is there, but as Hans identified, goodness me, there's a whole set of trends that are taking us into uncomfortable worlds that give us a challenge. If you had one final message ringing in our ears that was perhaps unexpected and really challenging to our audience of generally believers, what would it be? So it's sort of like that light bulb moment. Who better to start us off than Anton from Philips?
Thank you. Well, my very last comment would be there are many trends in this world. Some are, let's say, fashion trends for 3 months or 2 years for a mobile phone. But the good news about circular economy, this is a never-ending trend. So please stay the course.
Okay. Per.
We have heard a lot about barriers today and enablers, and I think the biggest barrier we have, all of us, is right here in our heads. Is how we behave as a citizen, as a person, how we take decisions as managers and leaders in our companies, and how also legislators takes decision. So what we need really to make circular big is a big cultural revolution from our all, starting from ourselves, starting from me.
Okay, thank you very much. Louise.
That was along the same lines. Don't forget the human factor. So human beings, us as consumer citizens, we are the biggest barrier and the biggest potential as well. And I think as leaders we can drive this development, but we also need to see how can we enable more convenient, people-friendly systems, and stop, make it sink into the minds of people that we're not living on a flat planet. It's as if we put waste over the edge and then it's just gone. No, it's not. It's coming right back at us. So the human factor.
John.
We need to accelerate this. So what I would urge you to do is that you would go home, and next time you buy something of significance, try to find a product that has started to do this, started to be produced in a modular way, thinking about sustainability and circular economics. Try to walk the talk. Go and buy the stuff that actually creates the market everybody needs and the infrastructure we have to have.
Okay, brilliant. Then I'm going to come from this end and leave the final word to you, Hans. So Thomas.
What I would hope is that we can take the messages we've been talking about at this conference and embed them in every school of design, in every corporate design shop, so that from the start, everything that is made has this sort of philosophy built into it.
Thank you. Sirpa.
Well, I think that we need to rethink our regulation paradigms for the circularity. Certainly a better and extended producer liability, but rights as well for the goods and materials. And we have to fix the other parts of the regulation, which is that the renewable waste regulation did get it better, but not right, and that comes to this sort of it's not compulsory to dismantle, and in some cases it's even financially compensated to scrap out very good cars or furniture or buildings, and this is contra to the purpose. And to come to the final line, what I mentioned already, this doesn't happen by itself. This doesn't happen with incremental steps. So we would need to be all plus 20,000 others really engaged, sending the message to the politicians, because we do not have that much of a time, because the politics and regulation is like a turtle trying to speed up with the gepard. That is the change in the real world.
Okay. Hans, you opened up this complete conversation. You produced the report that we're all going to download. Leave just some final thoughts and words to you.
If we don't come with the disruptive innovation and technologies to really scale up and speed up our move to the circular and low carbon economy, nature will be the one that will be disrupting us. So we better get started.
Okay.
Amen.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, could we give a huge hand to an amazing set of speakers, thought people, wonderful, thank you very much. Just a thought from me. From this session, as you relax outside, go forth and tweet. Push some key messages for this out to the world outside. Thank you for your participation. I'll see you, if not before, at the closing session. So thank you very much.